All right, hey folks, I am in the process boosting my signal. Apparently my sound's coming through okay, so let me make that quiet here real quick. Give me a hot second here to finish posting on the social media, and then we'll get shit kicking here. Hey, okay, so my name is Phil Kearney. Hey, I create role-playing games. I illustrate them online. I create role-playing games. I illustrate them. I publish them online. Right, and we've been designing, since 2017, we've been building 5e mechanics, and I've been focusing attention on creating alternate spell systems for color magic and Magic the Gathering, swapping out the 8 schools of magic for the 5-color magic system of Magic the Gathering, and removing spell slots and replacing it with a mana system that you spend and tap and spend mana to create magic effects. There you go. So let's see. Beep, 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 beep. There. Everything should be updated at this point. And there we go. And double checking here that everything is hunky-dory. Playtest, Ravnica, Playtest, Ravnica belt, alright, tick-a-boop, tick-a-boom, boom, 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 update, and, okay, cool, there we go, great, so let me go ahead and fix my face, there we go, jump, bloop. Big shout out to the Ravnica DMs subreddit, great crowd, fun place to sharpen your knives regarding D&D content with MTG. I just posted that I am live on the X Twitter platform. If you're still present, I'm at Phil Kearney. And let's see where we are. There we are. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications when I'm live in the future. There's a full playlist of all 130 episodes now that are going to be here. I will be updating my Discord invite link. We're going to be starting a playtest for this as early as next week. A week from Saturday. A week from Saturday is the earliest we could start it, but it could be on Saturday, Monday, or Thursday. You guys decide by voting. If you're on my Patreon, if you spend at least $1 on my Patreon, then you get that sets the vote. If there's a tie, we take the tied days to my Discord channel. Once the date is settled, whoever is a paying member on my Patreon has first right access to the chairs during the playtest. And if there's any seats open, then we'll take it to the Discord and offer open seats there. We'll run in 5-week stints, a session 0, and then a 4-week run, and then another session 0, 4-week 1. We'll do level 3, level 5, level 7, level 9. There. So I had the opportunity to playtest yesterday in Drunken Yoda, Darrow Dominguez's. He built a 5-room dungeon just cut his teeth on building 5-room dungeons. And it was fantastic. I was in-game with 4 other people. I had shown in a previous episode, I think it was like episode 128 of this stream. Check the playlist. But I had built a Dwarven Battle Master that was using Earthbending. And I split the magic between hammer and anvil magic. Hammer being strikes, sustained powers, and reactions, and the anvil being also because sustained powers are any kind of mana that you use. They're universal. So sustained effects, exploits, and maneuvers. So I had the mana split between those 2 piles. That worked out really well. Just to remind you guys, for those that are not indoctrinated, what we're going to do today is I basically picked up some nice quality of life improvements and efficiencies and better ways to resolve some weird mechanical interactions that is just going to improve the quality of the product overall and be available for folks to use when they start building out their characters as well. So just as a reminder for folks that are completely indoctrinated, we basically use the half-casting magic system. None of the powers that are offered in the book, though, are above 4th rank. So you'll have access to the full list of martial powers by 13th level, but you could spend up to 5 mana channeling them. So there's a power die, which acts as a superiority die, martial arts die, proficiency die, bardic inspiration die, a smite die. It's a psionic die. It's basically a universal die that sets how you're modifying your die rolls. If you spend 2 mana, if it's a power die effect, then you'll roll 2 dice. If you spend 3 mana, it'd be 3 dice. If you spend 4 mana, it'd be 4 dice. If you spend 5 mana, it'd be 5 dice. If it's something that modifies a d20, you'll take the best of those dice and throw the rest away. So there's definitely a sweet spot around 2 or 3 dice where it ends up being about optimal. 4 or 5 is a bit overkill, but if you absolutely have to hit your numbers, it can be worth it. It can be worth it. But normally 2 or 3 dice at most is all you really need for modifying your d20 to get a decent die roll out of it. If it's like a smite effect or damage dealing effect, it's going to be the total of all the dice. The number of powers that you know, that you prepare powers, you don't learn them, you prepare them. And here's the number of powers that you can prepare depending on your level. So I was 5th level, so I had 6 prepared powers. A fighter uses martial points, while a paladin, ranger, and artificer would use hybrid points. Hybrid points are stored on a long rest, and you have more than the martial caster would have, but you regain them on a short rest, kind of like the spell point Warlock that's been on the DMsGuild that I produced for a while. It's on a short rest. You basically gain 1 point per level, up to 20 points. Let's go down and look at the fighter real quick, because we built a battle master. So as you can see here, we've rebuilt all of the subclasses. We added features to each of the martial classes to lean into using martial powers as a core mechanic. Same as like having spellcasting and cantrips is added to spellcasters as core mechanics. Or maybe more accurately, modifying rangers and paladins, for instance. Each subclass, like these are barbarians, for instance, each subclass has a list of powers that it gains at 3rd, 5th, 3rd when you first gain the subclass, and then 5th level when you get 2nd rank powers, 9th when you gain 3rd rank powers, 13th when you get 4th rank powers, and 17th when you get 5th rank powers. And then we modify the subclass options further to curve into what martial powers do. So some of the stuff that we do as a fighter, highlighting the fighter since I played a battle master. You have the variant class feature, which is channel vitality, which is when you take when you use your second wind, you also regain a number of mana spent equal to the max rank of power that you've gained as a fighter. At 5th level, I have access to 2nd rank powers. I have a total of 5 mana. 2nd rank power, 5 mana. If I take second wind, I get D10 plus 5 hit points back, and I get 2 added. I get to recover 2 mana that I had spent. It came in clutch. We had basically like 3 combat encounters and like 2 exploration encounters, and we took a short rest. During that first stint, I used my second wind. Thank you. I used my second wind to regain some hit points after getting thwapped by a creature. And I knew that I was going to be using my second wind, so I intentionally burned 2 extra mana that turn for me to be able to deal more damage and have effects. And then using my bonus action as for my second wind, I just immediately recovered mana. So that was super useful. Let's see, channel vitality, optional feature, empowered maneuvers. So this is basically when maneuvers are spell-like effects, or like battle master maneuvers. There's a whole list of them that we'll go down and look at here in a few minutes, but you can channel them or cast, channel, cast, same thing. Rank, spell, same thing. Mana, spell points, same thing. You can channel a maneuver as a standard action or as a bonus action. You can do them both during the same turn if you want to. So I could, instead of making an attack with 2 attacks at 5th level, I could use my action to channel a maneuver, and then I'd have a bonus action left over that I could also use to channel a maneuver. So good action economy there. Lots of choices to break up what my action routine is going to be and how I want to sequence actions that I take per round. Let's see. But yeah, the empowered maneuvers is when I choose to channel a maneuver as a bonus action, I can sacrifice attacks from my attack action to lower the cost. So if I chose a 2nd rank maneuver as a bonus action to channel, it would cost me 2 mana. Or I could choose before that to sacrifice, or after, but if I have an action still during my turn, I could choose to sacrifice my action to, at 5th level, gain 2 attacks. Or to sacrifice the 2 attacks to gain 2 free points of mana that I then would spend as a bonus action on a maneuver. And we'll look at some of the maneuvers that I used. As I gain levels as a fighter, I'll have more attacks. This allows me to drop my my mana, the amount of mana that I can increase the amount of free mana that I get. At 20th level, when I have 4 attacks, I could channel a 4th rank power for free as a bonus action instead of making 4 attacks in a bonus action. If I were to, as a 5th level character, if I were to use Action Surge, and I ended up not using Action Surge at all. Damn it, I completely didn't use Action Surge. I totally could have at any point. But if I was a high enough level character, I could use Action Surge, like with like at 13th level, I'd have 3 attacks. I could use all of my attacks as an attack action, spend my Action Surge, then spend another attack. That's 4 attacks that I've sacrificed. I could then use all 4 of those to give me a free 4th rank power and still have 2 attacks left over for me to attack with. So a lot of versatility there. Optional class features, empowered attacks. Begin at 5th level. When I take the attack action and hit with the first attack, I could forego my second attack to gain a free point of mana to deal to trigger a 1st rank strike at no cost, or a higher rank strike for 1 less mana. So if I had 3 attacks as an 11th level fighter, I could channel up the 3rd rank strike. If I hit with my first attack, I could sacrifice my other 2 attacks to gain 2 free points of mana that I could make a 2nd rank power free, or a 3rd rank power I could spend 1 point on. So a lot of flexibility there, and that action economy switching out for mana resources, like that action economy equals resources, worked incredibly well. I always had something to do. Half the time I was just giving up my attacks and bonus action to give somebody else on the team extra actions as a reaction for themselves to use during my turn. It was very fluid and very fun. I'm kicking myself for not using my Action Surge, because that could have come in clutch. I mean, we ended up defeating the challenges, but some of us got dropped to 0 hit points at one point. It would have been really useful for me to have made use of Action Surge at that time. I just didn't think of it because I'm dumb. There you go. I just missed it. But that speaks incredibly well to the resilience of the class. I'm very happy. So going down to the actual Battle Master features, instead of a Battle Master, it has superiority dice. So the superior dice is at 3rd level, instead of having a D6, I have a D8. At 9th, I have a D10 instead of a D8. And at 17th level, I have a D12 instead of a D10. So my superiority dice allows my maneuvers to be more effective than, and my strikes, my smites, all my stuff to be numerically more powerful than what virtually all other characters using the martial powers system would be. So that was really candy. Really, really nice. I gain a stack of bonus powers. Ambush, which I ended up using when I wanted to make sure I went first. Coordinated attack was one of the VIPs of the game. Let's go down and look at what these different things are, so you can stay up to date with me. Beep 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 beep. Here we go. Exploits. Ambush. When making an ability check that can use the stealth skill, or when rolling initiative, roll 1 power die per mana channeled, adding the highest roll to your result. So it's an exploit. It's not a maneuver. It's not a strike. I can't reduce the cost, but I get the maneuver for free at 3rd level. And at one point that came in pretty clutch. I was basically I don't have any dexterity modifier on my character. He's a heavy tanky character, so no dex bonus. I took the shield mastery feat, so I could at least get shield evasion and a +2 bonus to my dexterity saving throw when I was being targeted for a single effect. That came in useful more than once. But Ambush, since I didn't have a dex modifier, I really appreciated having Ambush available, because that extra die roll came in pretty clutch. It's a D8 die roll, adding to a D20 without any dex modifier. It was perfect timing. I ended up going first in a combat with the main boss fight that we were dealing with in the adventure, and it was super critical that I went first because it gave me the opportunity to use some of my powers on it before it had a chance to act itself. So I'm going to peel this out because working into powers is what we're going to be spending most of our time on today. What else did I have? Coordinated attack. God, that was just absolutely crushing. Let's see, maneuvers, coordinated attack. You'll recognize this from the Battle Master in the Player's Handbook. You can empower a target ally that can see or hear you to use their reaction to make an opportunity attack. Rolling 1 power die per mana channel, adding the highest result to the ally's attack against a target you and your ally can both see. So that came in handy so often. It's a maneuver, so I can use it as a bonus action to make to use the maneuver. And in doing so, if I sacrificed attacks during my attack action, I could get free points of mana. So in many instances, I decided to use a bonus action to channel coordinated attack and sacrifice both of my attacks, which would in turn give the character I was targeting, they could then use their reaction for an extra attack during my turn. And then they'd roll 2 8-sided dice because of my my combat superiority die advanced it to a D8 instead of a D6. So they'd make their normal attack with their normal dice, and then they'd roll 2 extra 8-sided die, and the highest result of those 2 was added to their attack modifier, which allowed the martial characters that I was coordinating attacks with hit almost every time. I think there's like maybe 1 or 2 instances when I triggered this, they didn't hit. Always useful. Super, super freaking useful ability. Commanding Presence. I did not need to use Commanding Presence, but that's an exploit. And just looking at that real quick, it's a first rank exploit. It cost me 1 mana or 2, depending on how many points I wanted to spend. When making an ability check that can use Intimidate, Performance, or Persuasion, I can roll 1 power die per mana channeled, adding the highest roll to the result. Hey, my guy. Yeah. Oh my God. The playtest was so freaking great. Just 5th level is so sweet with this system. So Commanding Presence allows you to bump your Intimidate, Performance, and Persuasion checks. I roll a D8. The Battle Master rolls a D8 because of the superiority die instead of just your normal power die. So if I wanted to intimidate somebody, I would make my Charisma check, make the D20 plus my Charisma modifier, plus my proficiency if I was proficient with it, and then I'd roll, if I spent 2 mana, 2d8, adding the highest result, which, again, that d8 was huge on all the die rolls that we made. It just made the power curve so easy for us to be able to hit things, to hit our marks when it was needed. Absolute fan. Disarming Strike. We were mostly fighting creatures, so there wasn't any real need to disarm anything, but just to take a look at it, it's a strike power. So the way that strikes work is if I am successful at hitting my target with an attack roll, typically with a melee weapon, although some people can use ranged weapons, but with a melee weapon, whether thrown or a melee attack, it doesn't matter which. But when making that, if I succeed in the attack, just like smite spells, I can use a strike power. And the disarming strike, apparently I made disappear. So let me go fetch that here real quick. Martial powers. Character is here. I apparently cut paste instead of copy paste. Let's see. There we go. Copy. Right with you. Right, so disarming strike. When I hit with the weapon, I deal extra damage equal to 1 power die per mana burned. If I spent 2 mana, it'd be an extra 2d8 damage. I was using a Warhammer, so it was a d8, and then add on another 2d8. So when I spent 2 mana, I do 3d8 plus my strength damage, plus 3. And then, this one's a fun one. The target must make a strength saving throw against my channeling DC, which is a 14 for my character, adding the result of the highest power die rolled to the target, or the target drops the item. So like my DC is 14, and if I rolled 2d8, I added 2d8 damage. If I got like a 5 and a 3, then I would add the 5 to my DC, so it'd be a DC 19, not a DC 14. So I can spike my I could spike my my channel DC against foes by spending mana in that way. Super fun. It did come up useful. Not with this though. So I'll show you the rest of the stuff that we're doing. Yeah. There's 24 of them, anywhere from 1 to 4 mana. Most of them duplicate either power, like exploit type things that the Battlemaster got. There's some stuff here from the Arcane Archer, all the Paladin Smite stuff, and some Ranger stuff I think we dipped into. Like the Ensnaring Shot that became the where'd it go? Sweeping Strike, Shocking Strike, Restraining Strike. There you go. Your damage increases by 1 power die per mana burned. The creature is restrained by magical tethers. The creature can end the effect by succeeding a strength saving throw at the end of its turn. Size larger or larger creatures roll with advantage. That's basically Ensnaring Shot from Ranger. And then a lot of these like Radiant Strike, it's just damage. Your weapon can deal force or radiant damage and add 1 power die per mana burned. So if I'm hitting with a hammer, it'd normally be bludgeoning damage, but if I wanted to use a Radiant Strike, it could be force or radiant damage. And of course, the Paladin automatically deals radiant damage when using a divine. We retitled it to be the Divine Strike, which you can see in the document. So yeah, there's a lot of really, really good use of stuff. Like I use life stealing to tank. So again, I can using empowered strikes. If I hit with my first attack, I can sacrifice my second attack to get a free point of mana. So I could use life stealing strike, rolling a d8, but it wouldn't cost me any resources to do it. I just sacrificed an attack to gain the extra point of mana. And so whenever I use life stealing strike, you increase the damage by my d8, and then whatever that d8 result is, it gave me temporary hit points. So not only was I tanky with a 21 armor class, but I also had life-stealing strike going. So I just make my first attack, and if I hit, I'd life-steal. If I miss, I might not make another attack at all. I might instead choose to use a power to channel a coordinated attack for an ally, for instance. There's a lot of different stuff I can do. Let's see. Yeah, those are the 4 powers that you get: Disarming Strike, Commanding Presence, Coordinated Attack, Ambush. You get those for free. And then on top of it, I was 5th level, so I got 6 extra powers that I could just choose. So the powers that I chose, prepared powers, and they're prepared. They're not learned, they're prepared. I can change these every time I take a long rest. I took the Shieldmaster feat, because I can take feats instead of powers, and feats don't cost mana. But you also don't get the ability score modifier. So like if it's a half feat, you lose the ability modifier. You just get to prepare that as a feat. So I have Shieldmaster prepared so that I'd be able to gain use of. I took Crusher as my 4th level feat. And then I chose Shieldmaster as just one of my 6 powers I could just prep. And that gave me the bonus action to try to shove a target 5 feet if I wanted to. But I had the Crusher feat, so if I hit, I could also push with the bludgeoning attack from the Warhammer that I would hit. So I never had to use the shield bonus action. If I'm not incapacitated, my shield's AC bonus to dexterity saving throws came in handy. And if I'm subjected to an effect that allows me to make a saving throw to take only half damage, I could use my reaction to take no damage. It's basically evasion with a shield. Love that. That came up more useful than not, and I'm glad I took it. Goad came up a lot. Goad is a maneuver, so I could. It's very on off. It's binary. Target creature you can see and that can see you or hear you makes attacks against other creatures with disadvantage. If they attack you, it's like normal. That stays active until they can either successfully hit me, which never happened because when I would goad, I would move away from them and let other tanks in the party stay in front of the target. So they had to deal with the tanks in front of them, and they were getting disadvantaged to try to deal with them. Meanwhile, I'm on the back line, and I was able to like throw light hammers as needed, or more often than not, just pump all of my action economy into maneuvers and not have to spend any mana. So I basically had spammable 5th level cantrips dealing 2d8 damage when I would hit them, but it cost all my action economy to do it. But that's okay, because I didn't need to use my action economy. What I needed to do was stay off the front line and just badger things with powers. So Goad, they could also, if they were able to hit me, it would dispel the effect. But they could also make an intelligence saving throw at the end of each of their turns. So sometimes that would work, sometimes it's not. But I could just hit them again with it the next turn. So it was a spammable ability that kept them fairly debuffed during the course of the adventure. I also had Flatten. This was MVP. Flatten. Choose a creature you can see. It takes 1 power die per mana for force damage. So up to 2d8 damage. And it's knocked prone. It can end this effect with a successful strength save at the end of its turns. This is a problem. So the problem that we discovered is that it's kind of like double dipping. So the way that this is set up is that they automatically get hit by prone because it's just prone. You can just stand up from it. It's not a big deal, right? They can automatically take damage from it. So that's a dip. Automatically taking damage is a dip. Knocking them prone is not as much of a dip. But the fact that they can't end the effect until the end of their turn means that their turn is over. So even if they succeed the save, they can't get up. So I would have an extra turn of them being prone beyond what I actually intended. And that was a weird game interaction that I had not anticipated that needs to be addressed. So that's something we're going to work on today. And then Trap Springer was awesome. Trap Springer, here's Lifesteal, we just talked about that. And Thundering Strike was great too. When you weapon, it's basically like a Repelling Blast for Eldritch Smite or the Warlock. When you hit, you deal an extra amount of thunder damage equal to 1 power die per mana burned up to 2d8 at 5th level. The creature, if it's size large or smaller, nothing was bigger than size large, so I could affect everything that was in the game today. They get pushed away from me 10 feet. So I had to maneuver myself so I was in position to where I wanted them to go, and then I could hit them, and if I spent 2 mana, I could punt them up to 20 feet. There you go. I could spend a feat to use 2 powers at the same time, like Thundering Strike and Disarming Strike. Like I could use, if I spent a feat, I'd be able to use those 2 together. Like if I specifically chose 2 strikes, I could use them together as a combined mana cost, like 1 point into Thundering Strike, 1 point into Disarming Strike, and still do 2d8 damage, but the d8 would be added to the Disarm DC, and the d8 from Thundering Strike would push the creature 10 feet, not 20. So it's kind of split that way, but I can spend a 3rd power to connect them so that you can always use them together if I wanted to. That's a neat little lever or a dial you can pull and twist to optimize your character's performance, but it's going to cost you flexibility. Speaking of flexibility, there are the way that it's currently written is that when you finish a short rest, you can swap 1 power that you have prepared for another, and the observation that was made, Daryl had this observation. It's like, if you're just going to let somebody crack open their book during a short rest and just cherry pick a power to swap out, that could drag gameplay. I'm like, that is fair, though long rest casters do that every day and don't necessarily have to change them, but it is a fair point, and it was inspiring. So we now have a sideboard. So what we do now is that when you do your long rest prep, you can also prep as a sideboard a number of powers equal to your maximum rank. So at 5th level, I can channel up to 2nd rank powers. That means that I can prepare 2 extra powers on my sideboard, and I can swap out. I can swap out powers for my sideboard. So like if I had Thundering Strike and Lifestealing, and I wanted to swap those out for Rogue Stance and Inspired Skill, I would then put Lifesteal and Thundering Strike on my sideboard, and I'd swap in Inspired Skill and Rogue Stance. And I could do that on a short rest, but I'll prep which ones I can do that with on my long rest. So we're effectively building a sideboard like Magic the Gathering. When you're playing best of 3s, you have a sideboard. You have your opening deck at level 1, and then you have a sideboard of X amount of cards that you can swap in or add to your deck to customize it against the opponent that you're fighting with. Same way here with short rests. When I finish my short rest, I can borrow from my sideboard to add in things and swap things out. I love that because this whole thing has been about color mana, converting Magic the Gathering into a D&D game system that makes it fun for Ravnica, Strixhaven, Theros, or any other homebrewed Magic the Gathering setting that you might want to play. That just leans a little bit more closely into the tech deck idea of how Magic the Gathering works, and I absolutely love that. So we're going to implement that. And just to note, we did not have a rogue in the party. So while I maintain as a concentration effect, I can maintain up to 2 mana worth of powers. So Trap Springer costs 1, which while this is active, I gain advantage on intelligence and wisdom checks for investigations and perception to notice traps. And if I do, I automatically understand the general nature of the trap, and I'll gain advantage on intelligence and dexterity checks using tools that I'm proficient with to disarm the traps. But I'm not proficient in Thieves' Pick tools. So I could use Inspired Skill, also a 1 mana ability, to, while this is sustained, I gain proficiency in any skill or tool of my choice. So I had a Thieves' Kit, I'm just not naturally proficient with it. But whenever I would channel and sustain Inspired Skill, I could choose to become proficient in using these skills. Kind of like borrowed knowledge from Ravnica setting. I'd gain this proficiency in this skill or tool that I normally wouldn't. I could then couple that with Trap Springer, and so now I was good at noticing traps because I took proficiency in perception, and I had proficiency in investigation. So I had access to both of those things naturally as a battle master. And so now I have advantage in using when I'm detecting traps, and because of the Inspired Skill, I'm now also proficient in Thieves' Pick tools that I could then roll with advantage. So it would cost me 2 mana to activate those things, and as long as my concentration wasn't disrupted, I didn't have a tail end of it. If I started a short rest, that would end the concentration effect. But otherwise, as long as I didn't lose concentration, I could keep them active as long as I wanted to. So that came in really handy, and I didn't need to use any other sustained effects. So that was perfect. I was able to basically sustain those things the entire time and I didn't fail my my concentration check at any point. So that worked out fantastic. So those are the abilities that I had, and allowed me to, like I said, with those 2 powers, any martial character can BS as a Trap Springer. You can become a really good Trap Springer. It'll cost you 2 powers, but you can sideboard those. So like if you don't I started off with those because we were going into a dungeon, we didn't recognize it, and by the time we got down into the 2nd level of the dungeon, it's like, my gut's telling me that we've gotten through pretty much all the traps that are going to be really difficult. So I'm going to swap out my trap. I got rid of Inspired Skill and picked up Flatten. And so Flatten allows me to choose a creature. It takes points of damage and then gets knocked prone. And then I started using it a lot. And because I'd goad something, and then the next round I'd flatten it so that the tanks that were adjacent to it goes flat. It's now prone, so they get advantage to attack it until the thing could get up. But if it couldn't pass the saving throw, it couldn't get up at all. So if it wanted to attack, it would attack at disadvantage because it's prone. So it was a really useful utility power. But again, the mechanics are broken. So let's go in and find Flatten. I think I started monkeying with it already. but I want to see where it's at right now to see what we need to do with it. And for anyone that's interested in this, again, I'm going to have a playtest starting in about a week or so. And if you want to look at the Martial Powers playtest content, it's here on my Patreon. You do not need to be a paying member to access this, but the document is read only. So you can read the whole thing. You can build characters with it anywhere from level 1 to 20 of any of the martial classes of Barbarian, Fighter, Monk, Paladin, Ranger, Rogue. You can also use it with Artificer and Warlock, replacing infusions and invocations with basically adding powers to your list. And on all the rules for that, it's already inside the document. This is like a 115-page book. Yeah, it's 114 pages right now. So, I mean, it is a dense document. So, let's look at this. I didn't use any reactions because I didn't have enough mana for me to warrant it. I was being I was intentionally picking powers that allowed me to maximize and spam use of my powers as often as I wanted to. Reactions, sustained powers, and exploits always cost at least a point of mana, if not more. So those are like clutch uses. They're expensive to use, so if you're going to use them, it's probably because you're really going to need to use them. And I had a few instances of that, but for the most part, I stuck to maneuvers and strikes. Let's see. Flatten. Choose a creature you can see. It takes 1 power die per mana of force damage, and it's knocked prone. It can end this effect with a successful strength save at the end of each of its turns. That doesn't work anymore. So choose a creature you can see to make a strength saving throw. It takes 1 power die per mana of force. I can hear myself. Hold on. There. That should be better. Okay, so I think I want to make this at the beginning, most of these things don't require a saving throw up front, but this has to be revised because of the way that interaction works. So, flatten. Choose a creature you can see to make a saving throw. Everything in here has saving throws at the end of the turn. Choose a creature you can see. No, let's do it like this. Choose a creature you can see. Period. It takes damage. It takes damage. It takes 1 power die per mana spent of force damage. And it must make a strength saving throw against your channeling DC, adding the highest power die results to the save DC. If it fails, it's knocked prone until the... Well, there you go. It's just knocked prone. And then it can use its own turn to get up. There. That's... I think that's useful. It could... Okay, so what was happening in our game... Josh from Dungeoneers Pack was playing his new Scourge class. He was playtesting that. And the Scourge has a feature that when it hits, it can spend resources to fear a target. And if a target is frightened, it can't use any move action anymore. So you have to use move action to stand up. So we were in a place where I would goad it, or I would flatten it, and then he would hit it because he had advantage to hit it. And when he did, he'd spend Scourge resources to frighten it. It then couldn't stand up, so it was stuck. That was super cool. So I think, but it was getting double tapped because it had to save for my goad or it had to save my flatten, and it also had to save strength save against my flatten, and it had to wisdom save against his frighten effect. And that was an extreme case of us just basically being able to just like raffle stomp on it. And it was awesome, but it stacked weird. So hold on, I'm checking my timing here. Okay, cool. I've got 20 minutes. I'm gonna take a sip. Hey, what's up? 809 MBH, what's up? Yeah, it's been incredibly long. God, I think you were around like 4 months ago or something? Forgive my faded memory. But love seeing people around. Thank you for being here. Let's see. Okay, so yeah. So flatten, it's only a 1-point mana effect, so it can be easy to use. I like this. Choose a creature. You roll power dice. It automatically takes the damage. I'm fine with that. I'm also fine with it making a strength saving throw, and I like the kicker effect. I just need to word it better. So where is the disarming strike? And since it doesn't have any ongoing effect, I'm fine with it automatically triggering and automatically flattening. So disarming strike. There we go. Let's fetch this real fast. I see another change. Okay, cool. Let's first codify this. Choose a creature you can see. Choose a creature you can see. It takes 1 power die per mana. Per mana of force damage. And the target must make a strength saving throw. There it is. Against your channeling DC, adding the highest power die result. Or the target is knocked prone. If it succeeds, it takes half damage, and if it hold on. This is a good reference. At the end of each of its turns, the target makes another saving throw or be paralyzed for the duration. Maybe, let's see how that plays out. We're crafting here, folks. We're crafting here. On a hit, target takes 3d6 necrotic damage, and you regain hit points equal to half the amount of necrotic until the end of this. Nope. What's an effect? What's a thing that deals damage that's half on a save and has other conditions? Trying to think of a thing that does that. Oh, maybe let's try that. When a creature enters the affected area, Creature must succeed on a dexterity saving throw or take blah damage and be restrained by the tentacles until the spell ends. Creature that starts its turn this way, a creature restrained by the tentacles can use its action to make a strength saving throw against the spell save DC. Oh, I like that. The dash likes. Choose a creature you can see. It takes... Restrained by the tentacles takes... Creature restrained by... Okay. Flatten. Choose a creature you can see. It takes 1 power die per mana of force damage, and the target must make a strength saving throw against your channeling DC, adding the highest power die rolled. If the save succeeds, it takes half damage. If it fails, it is... Hold on. Let's get back to baseline here real quick. Choose a creature you can see. It takes 1 power die per mana force damage, and it's not prone. It can end this effect by using the target can use its action to make a strength saving throw to end the effect. That is the most efficient solution. Ends the effect with its action, then it can stand up as a standard, as part of its movement. And it screws them out of their action. Or they can just stay prone. The effect will end eventually. It'll end after a minute if they can't break out of it. But this would allow them to attempt to break out of the effect early. That seems like the most efficient way of doing it. The auto damage, though, is disempowering. So, choose a target creature you can see. It takes 1 power die per mana of force damage, and it's knocked prone. The target can use its action to make a strength saving throw to end the effect. Let's compare that to Burning Hands. So if I use Burning Hands as a 2nd level spell, when you cast this using a 2nd level spell slot or higher, the damage increases by d6 for each spell slot above 1st. It deals 3d6 fire damage on half. Damage is half. So if I spent a first level spell slot using Burning Hands, it could do up to 3d6 fire damage. Or, so it could do up to 18 damage, or it would do 9 damage at best if I fail to save. Contrast that with no saving throw, and it would do 6 points of damage to make you prone. That feels balanced. Like, I don't need you to make a die roll, because the amount of damage that, like at 5th level, when I could channel 2 mana, it would do 2d6 damage for most classes. It would do 2d6, which is half of the 46 that a normal caster could do. So it's already taking into account that, like, it just assumes the damage that we're dealing here assumes that you pass the saving throw. And so you only have that much. But it's also, as a result, going to inhibit you by knocking you prone. And knocking you prone, the creature can either just deal with it because it's just disadvantage on an attack roll, or it could spend its action to try to break the saving throw. So basically, what Flatten does is it deals it does saving throw worth of damage, a successful save worth of damage, and imposes disadvantage on attack rolls until you choose to end the effect. Let's again verify the effect of prone. 5e prone condition. Basically, what we're doing here is we are reducing the amount of dice that need to be rolled to initiate this thing. Yeah, creature has disadvantage on attack rolls. That's it. There you go. You have advantage with it if you are an attack roll against the creature has advantage if the attacker is within 5 feet of the attack. Otherwise, it's disadvantage. Prone character only movement option is to crawl unless it stands up and thereby ends the condition. The creature has disadvantage on attack rolls. There you go. Okay, great. So it slows you to half movement and gives you disadvantage on attack rolls if you choose to not spend an action to stand. So I like that. I think that's in a good space. It's very simple. The damage is certainly not overpowering. And they can end it at any time, but it's going to cost them action economy to do it. I love that. That is a good solution. So let's go through here, and that was the main problem that we were having. That was the only obvious problem that existed inside of the playtest that we had. Everything else is pretty crisp. So I'm just going to go through here real quick to see if there's anything else that's wonky that needs to be resolved real quick. Bonus action, no. Brand of Axiom. Force a creature you can see to make a saving throw. If the save succeeds, you can sense that the creature is affected by an illusion. If the save fails, all the illusions affect. If the save fails, all illusions and shape change effects end. I'm good with that. They get a saving throw for that. And if they succeed, you still know that they have illusions on them. And if they fail, it gets rid of this. That's basically like a dispel. So a dispel for a save effect is fair. Or rather, it's appropriate to allow them a saving throw to prevent having effects dispelled. That's a lot more severe than a prone, which doesn't necessarily actually inhibit them. It just gives them disadvantage. And if they have advantage on some other way, then it's just a straight die roll. So it's not actually that big of an effect. Coordinated attack. This is just a battle master maneuver. You can empower a target ally that you can see that can see or hear you to use their reaction to make an opportunity attack. You can see that can see or hear you to use their reaction to take an opportunity attack, rolling 1 power die per mana channeled, adding the highest result to the ally's attack against a target. You and your ally can both see. God, that was such a great ability. Adding that die roll was amazing for making coordinated attack work well. Is that standard? Is that like out of the box? Is that how coordinated attack is supposed to work? Now I'm curious. Jesus fucking Christ. Search engine here is worth $500 million, and they can't make a goddamn search engine. Battle Master, there we go. Obviously my fault, there's a space. maneuvering attack. Spend 1 spirit die to maneuver one. I thought this was a. See here, that creature can use its reaction to have a speed without provoking an attack from. Okay, I thought this was a battle master maneuver, but apparently not. Oh, command strike. When you take the attack, you can forgo one of your attacks to use a bonus action to direct one of your companions to strike. When you do so, choose a friendly creature. You can see here, expend 1 superiority die. That commander can immediately use the reaction to make one weapon attack. Yeah, adding superiority die to the to the damage roll. That's interesting. This adds to the superiority die adds to the attack damage. But the way that we have it is it adds to the attack roll, which I think is better flavor in general. God, it was so useful. It was so useful. Coordinated dash. You can empower one ally that can see. One ally you can see. One ally you can see that can see or hear you per mana burned to use their reaction to move up to half their speed without provoking opportunity attacks. And the more mana I spend, the more people I can affect with it. I love that. Curse of the Eyeless. You curse a creature you can see to reduce the result of all attack rolls by the highest roll of 1 power die per mana burned. So if I threw 3 dice, they're all d8s. Whatever the highest result is, that is the result of all attack rolls. There you go. Creature can make an intelligence saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect when it succeeds. And all of these powers have a 1-minute duration. You curse a creature you can see to roll ability checks with disadvantage. The creature can make an intelligence saving throw at the end of its turns, ending the effect. That didn't require a saving throw either, but it didn't prevent them from actually doing anything. It just inhibited their ability. It just reduced their ability to reduce the chances of them doing it. Which is the general theme that we seem to have. You curse a creature that you can see to roll ability checks with disadvantage. Distract. Target creature you can see and can see you cannot take reactions until it can no longer see you or it succeeds an intelligence saving throw at the end of each of its turns. Let's see. Flatten. We just did flatten goad. Target creature you can see it here makes an attack against creatures other than you with disadvantage. I'm going to reflatten again. Choose a creature that you can see. It takes 1 power die per mana, force damage, and it's knocked prone. The target can use its action to make a strength saving throw to end the effect. I'm really good with that. I'm really, really good with that. That feels really good now. Rally. You or an ally you can see that can see or hear you gains a number of temporary hit points equal to the total of 1 power die rolled for each point of mana burn. Regeneration. When you hit with this maneuver, you can spend a number of hit dice up to your max rank to regain a number of hit points equal to the amount rolled. You give temporary hit points to allies. You heal yourself. I'm okay with that. And then the life stealing strike gives temporary hit points. It doesn't actually heal you. It just gives you temporary hit points. Kickers. So as an exploit, you can like if I have a max rank of 2 and I use regeneration, I spend 2 points. First rank power, regeneration. So I spent say 2 mana at 5th level. I'd heal normally 2d6 damage, and then as a kicker effect, even though my max rank is 2. Kickers are exploits, and exploits track differently from maneuvers. So I can use an exploit while using a strike, maneuver, reaction, sustain power. They can stack, but they have different costs. So I could spend 2 points regenerating 2d6 hit points, and I could spend 1 point of mana to end this effect. Or if I was 9th level, I could spend, say, 1 mana to heal regeneration by 1d8 hit points. And then I could spend 3 mana as an exploit. I could spend 3 mana to end the following effects, 1 curse. I technically wouldn't have to spend any hit points, any mana on hit points. I could just spend 1 point to end blindness, deafness, or poisoned. Or I could spend 3 points to end a curse, ability score reduction, hit point reduction, or 1 degree of exhaustion. I'm cool with that. I'm really good with that. Restraining hold. I'm just going to finish sweeping through there, and then I got a bolt. Restraining hold. While grappling, you can deal 1 power die of weapon damage per mana burned to the grappled creature. And the creature is restrained. Okay, so here's the wording here. You can deal 1 power die of weapon damage per mana burned. If I am a barehanded grappler and I have a D8 power die, if I have somebody if I've grappled somebody and I use restraining hold as a melee option because I'm grappling somebody, then I would deal that D8 damage, even though like I might only do like D4 plus 2 damage if I punch somebody. It's the power die that's determining the amount of damage that I automatically deal while they're grappled, and the creature is restrained until the end of the grapple. The creature can make a strength or dexterity saving throw at the end of each of its turns to end the effect, but this does not end the grapple. It just stops the restrain. Can make a strength. Yeah, I'm good with that. Swift attunement, swift resuscitation, vanish, cursed brand. Creature you can see makes a saving throw with disadvantage. The effect ends. You curse a creature you can see to make saving throws with disadvantage, and the effect ends when it succeeds a saving throw. Double strike is a non-factor. Incapacitator, melee only, 2 mana. While grappling, you can deal 1 power die of weapon damage per mana burned, just like with the restraining hold, and force it to make a Constitution saving throw. If the save fails, the creature becomes unconscious until the grapple ends. The creature takes damage, or it succeeds a Constitution saving throw at the end of each of its turns. So that's fine, because if you'll get, basically this allows you to spend 2 mana to get a chance to crit it. You'll be able to crit it once if you can hit it. Then it wakes up and the incapacitation ends and the 2 mana is expended. That's fair. While grappling. Yeah, I'm good with that. Theurgy. Target creature you can see cannot move unless it takes the dash action, and it cannot use bonus actions until it succeeds a Constitution saving throw at the end of each of its turns. And cannot use bonus actions. Right. I'm good with that. Because a lot of creatures don't even have bonus actions. Phase. You can become incorporeal. Doesn't affect others. Shunt. Creatures that are 1 size larger than you within 10 feet. All creatures. Creatures that are up to 1 size larger than you within 10 feet. Creatures... creatures of your choice that are up to 1 size larger than you within 10 feet must make a strength saving throw, or they get to save to prevent this because it's multiple creatures as opposed to a single target. If it was a single target effect only, I would just say you get pushed 10 feet because like repelling strike automatically pushes things and deals damage. The damage is caused by the attack roll, and the kicker effect is getting pushed. This doesn't have any damage. It just pushes things, which could be really useful or detrimental. But it gets a save because of multiple creatures. Okay, lift. Target creature, 1 size larger. Wisdom saving throw. Gets lifted 5 feet off the ground. There you go. And can end the effect. The creature can save at the end of each of its turns to end the effect. And it had to make a Wisdom saving throw. Beguiling Trance. You can target a creature that you can see that can also see you to make a Wisdom saving throw. If it fails, it is charmed and cannot take actions until it can no longer see you, takes damage, or succeeds a Wisdom saving throw at the end of each of its turns. So you could stun it, but as soon as you attack it, the effect ends. A creature can use an action to shake another creature can choose to shake the action to shake off the charm effect, ending the effect. It's 3 mana. It's expensive, but I think it's useful. It's more of like a shutdown effect than like I'd rather use Incapacitator to knock somebody out if I wanted to get an automatic crit. Curse of Enfeeblement. You can curse a creature that you can see to deal half damage with attacks until the target succeeds a strength saving throw at the end of each of its turns. It doesn't prevent them from doing anything. It just reduces the damage that they can deal. Wave of Terror. You can choose any number of creatures you can see to make within 30 feet to make a wisdom saving throw. Each creature that fails is frightened of you. The effect ends for a creature when it succeeds a wisdom saving throw at the end of each of its turns, or if it loses line of sight. There you go. Or if it can no longer see you, period. So if you turn invisible, it ends. Telekinetic Bubble. Choose a creature up to large size that you can see. It becomes trapped within a resilient sphere, as per the spell. The creature can make a dexterity saving throw to end the effect at the end of each of its turns. Kicker effect. Add 2 mana, becomes huge. Add 4 mana, it can be a gargantuan creature. There you go. And that's all the maneuvers. So I think I'm pretty happy with how these are sitting. See, the Resilient Sphere spell gets a saving throw up front, but then you're stuck in it until it ends. This is you automatically get stuck in it, but could end immediately at the end of your turn with a successful save. So it flips it. So I don't mind you being affected immediately. You can still run around. You could still actually run over somebody. Like if you had the overrun exploit, you could use that while in a telekinetic bubble because you can still run while you're in the bubble. It's just you're in a bubble. It's actually really useful. Like you could toss telekinetic bubble onto an ally, and now they can't be targeted by attacks or spell effects because they're in a bubble and that blocks because they technically have full cover. So TK bubble can actually be used advantageously, and of course you can end the effect yourself at any time. During your turn as an act of will. Yeah, I think we've gotten out of our way to do what we needed to do. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of maneuvers. There's a total of 209. There's a total of 209 powers overall. 151 of them use mana. The other 58 don't require, are basically like alternate cantrips. So, and those are at the end of the list. So exploits modify die rolls and movements and action economy, like getting extra actions and stuff like that. Reactions are, like it says, reactions. Maneuvers are like spell-like abilities that use either an action, can use actions and or bonus actions to trigger. Strikes are modify attack rolls, like modify your weapon damage and effects after you hit. And then sustained powers are concentration effects that affect your character only. So that's those are, did I get all 5? Exploits, reactions, maneuvers, strikes, and sustained powers. There you go. So far, so good. Yeah, it's a good book. It's a good thick book, and all the characters, all the martial characters have access to this full list. And then like rangers and paladins have their normal spell list that they could freely interchange with any of these. Like if you're going to use a paladin, the paladin either chooses to have access to strikes or spell smites. If you choose strikes, you remove all the smite spells from your spell list. If you want to keep the smite spells, then you can't take any strike disciplines. Easy enough. It's fair. That way you're not cross-contaminating the two options. You could have completely different paladins that way if you wanted to. You could both have Paladin of Oath of Vengeance. Both of them could be Oath of Vengeance, but one uses strikes, the other one uses smites, and they'll feel different because of that. And these are all prepared, just like a Paladin is, so you can swap them out at will. on a daily. You've got your sideboard for short rest prepping. You got the power dice, which can be bought down with your action economy. There it is. Just a reminder to anyone that's catching this in the future or now, playtesting is going to start as soon as a week from Saturday. I have a poll up currently to my Patreons. So if you are a member, a paying member of my Patreon, let's see, let's go to my Patreon list. Paying members of my Patreon have first right of decision. Fine, thanks. There you go, Martial Powers playtest. So here's the 3 times. If you're a paying member, you'll see this, but you won't actually be able to vote on this unless you contribute at least $1 a month to it. Currently, we have a tie. So if it stays a tie throughout, this poll stays open until the end of Sunday. If at the end of the week it ends up staying a tie, then we go to the About page, and I'll update my Discord link here at the end of the stream. But if it ends up being a tie, oops, I'll need to update that link. So we'll update it. But if we once it's updated, here's my Discord channel, and we'll go down here to the Martial Powers playtest campaign. All tiebreakers are resolved down here. And if you're a paying member of my Patreon, you have first right to chair. So I'll have like up to 5 players at the table. And if you are a paying member and you want that chair, it's yours. If I have more than 5 Patrons wanting that time slot, then we'll have to do a raffle system for them. If there are seats open after my Patreons choose the seats that they want, if there's any open seats left over, we'll again punt it to my Discord channel and allow just for an open call. And it'll be a weekly open call. If you're a Patreon, you'll have first right to the seat for the entire campaign. And any gaps that happen will go to the Discord list to fill those in. So anyway, that's it for now, guys. I'm out of here. Thanks a lot. I'll be back tomorrow morning. We're going to finish the asteroids for the asteroid combat asset packet that we're including with the Spelljammer to create our first Spelljammer bundle to help reduce the cost. We'll reduce the cost of both the asteroids and the Spelljammer book to give the bundle a total of 35% off, to make it a nice steep discount for people to be able to use the things that we've made on DMsGuild. That's it. I'm out of here. Thanks a lot. See you guys later.